Shalom, Yashrala. This is your brother Dawud Daw from GMS Tampa Bay '07, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught me this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you. I can push this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth. All right, we're going to jump into this here quick little lesson, dealing with, basically what they call a so-called Fallout Boy or these other camps that's going off. They know who they are. We all know who they are. Also like 2/3 or just stubborn ass people. Well, obviously they ain't gonna say stubborn people because if you a so-called stubborn person, you more than likely a 2/3. Fitted for destruction anyway. But nevertheless, I'm gonna get into a lesson pretty much dealing with that. Sometimes you just gotta leave, like the scriptures say, let the wicked be wicked still, let the righteous be righteous. But we're gonna jump into this because again, all these things has been prophesied about in the scriptures. We're going to start out in, actually, I'm going to come back to that. I'll start off in, this is Proverbs 21:16. It says, the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. All right? And so this is pretty much what we, this here lesson is going to be about, all right? The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding. Like I said, these fallouts and stuff like that. You was in this truth. You found out what was going on, right? But then all of a sudden you want to basically like a pig after you clean it, going back to his mire, a dog returning back to his vomit, you going back to your ways to the ways you was, you acting worse and worse, especially when you already had this truth, like John 3:18 said the condemnation is light is coming to the world, but you hate the light, you rather go to the darkness because at least your evil deeds be exposed, But nevertheless, it says, the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. All right, so we're going to go ahead and break that down, talking about remaining in the congregation of the dead. This is Ezekiel 37, starting at the top. It says, and the hand of Yahweh was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of Yahweh and set me down in the midst of the valley which was full of dry bones. All right. Now, this location that they're talking about, which we'll get into, the location it's talking about is more or less here in America. All right. It says, and caused me to pass by them round about, and behold, they were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. Okay. And he said unto me, son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Yahweh power, thou knowest. And he said unto me, prophesy unto these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Okay? He says, I will lay sinews upon you, and bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. Alright? And as a spoiler, because the scripture is going to break down exactly what this is talking about, but as a spoiler alert, the dry bones, alright, so the valley that he's talking about is more or less here in America. Alright? The dry bones is the children of Israel. Alright? Before we came into this truth and before this truth was really pushed out heavily, like I know that this truth was pushed out, back in the days, but really on a larger scale, in 2007 when this word pretty much was being pushed on the YouTube, So, at this point in time, you already had the watchmen that was set up, more or less, or to say in this analogy, the doctors, the people reviving folks, Now you see in the streets, the Valley of Dry Bones, we was all walking around. And I say we as far as, because in that point in time, I didn't know nothing about this, I was completely oblivious to all of this, And so I'll use myself as an example, We was all walking around as fucking dry bones, In that time, shit, I was not far out of high school. I was like maybe a year out of high school. So shit, I was on some, in the world folly, I was out partying and bullshitting, fucking bitches and getting money, I was just into my folly, I was walking around being dead, Not knowing anything what the fuck an Edomite was, what an Israelite was, not knowing really what salvation was, not knowing the Lord's name, not knowing that, in the near future, I would be sitting out here prophesying to the men of the Lord, raising them up, waking up and raising the dead, in the future, I didn't think I'd be doing all these things like that. I wasn't even thinking nowhere near this, So I was a fucking walking around dead man, Never even crossed my mind that Esau was out here killing us. It never crossed my mind that there was a fucking Edomite or a devil that was actually in my face next to me or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. You know, I was like these simple ass Jake thinking that, you know, ain't no racism, everything is going on perfectly fine, you know? So that's what it's saying. It says, where was it? It says, and there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. Okay? It's talking about these bones, talking about they were very dry. That means they was like I said, when I was in that same state, you know, it wasn't even like the fact that I was like, okay, so you have some Israelites, right? We use like GOCC who believe in like mermaids and shit like that, you know, or calling on the higher, you know. That's just like a regular ass dead bone, you know. It ain't that dry, you know. I mean, because they know something about the truth. They know what an Israelite is, you know. So they was way better off than me. But see, me at that point in time, I didn't know a goddamn thing about this, you know. So I was basically in the congregation of the dead. I was the walking dead at that point in time, you know. And it says, and here's a, you know, one of those things. Because I hear a lot of the brothers always saying, in those days we're gonna get spiritual powers. But you know, contrary to the popular belief, you know, we already have those spiritual powers, you know. Some of them. We ain't got the full force of it, but we got these spiritual powers already, you know, and I can speak for it my damn self, you know. Like I'm explaining now, I was one of these very dry-ass dead bones at one point in time, all right? But, you know, collectively, starting with Apostle Tahar on down, you know, you Akim and you brothers that's pushing this truth and sincerity in the four corners of the earth, you know, what we reading right here, you know, this is what happened. You know, this is what happened to me, all right? And the rest of you brothers that came into this truth, you know. I was a dead man walking, but what? Y'all raised me from the dead, all right? And we're going to read about it here. This is what happened. It says, verse 3, and he said, unto me, son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, oh, Yahweh power thou knowest, all right? So the analogy they're giving is these some dead motherfuckers right here, all right? But can you bring them back to life? Can you raise the dead, all right? And he said, again, he said unto me, prophesy unto these bones and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh, okay? So go speak unto these dead motherfuckers that's walking around, right? That's like us, you know. Most High told you to basically go, Ezekiel 3, go out to the highways and the byways, and I set you up as watchmen into the house of Israel, all right? So, you know, the men of the Lord, they was out on the highways and the byways, and they was prophesying and preaching, you know, and they blew that breath upon me, you know, speaking for myself, but really all the brothers that's in the camps, you know, they blew the breath on us brothers, you know, and then we heard the word, and then I'm about to read what happened. It says, behold, I will cause breath to enter unto you, and you shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and bring flesh upon you, and shall cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live. And you shall know that I am Yahweh. Okay? It says, and so I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied there was a noise, and behold, a great shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. All right? And as I'm visualizing all this going on in my head, you know, as the analogy is going on, you know, as he's talking about, look, I blew breath into him, I was prophesying to him, you know, to these dry-ass dead bones, and that was me, you know. One day I was on YouTube looking up some folly or some shit like that. I don't know what the hell I was doing, you know. But some kind of way, I don't know what the fuck happened, but some kind of way I got into one of these Israelite videos, you know. Then all of a sudden, you know, that was a piece of the sinew that came together, you know. And then as I kept clicking, getting this little understanding, you know, the skin started to come together. And this is, so I prophesied as I was commanded. And that's what the apostles on down was doing, all right. And it says, as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone, right? And, you know, like I said, as I visualized this, that shaking was me watching the damn videos, you know, and however I got sucked into it, I started watching them, you know, and I disagreed with everything that I heard because that was nothing that I had ever heard before. I was like, wait a minute, y'all completely off, you know? And just in my character, I'd be like, you know, like I try to tell people, you can't just tell me I'm wrong, you're going to have to prove me wrong, you know, not being cocky or nothing like that, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm wrong, I want you to show me how I'm wrong so I can learn and move forward, all right? So I use the same analogy. I'm like, y'all keep saying this, and I'm about to prove y'all wrong, and so let me go and do my research and figure out who's right or who's wrong, you know? And so the noise and that great shaking and all that was flipping through the books, reading, clicking, you know, different websites and you know, going to go buy books and reading through all these books and like, damn, come to find out, scratching my head, taking notes. Come to find out, the apostles on down, it was right the whole time, you know? And that was that great noise and that great shaking and them bones coming together, you know? As I was reading page upon page, book upon book, research upon research, that was another bone coming together and another bone. You know, at first you was a bag of shaking bones, you know, but now at the end you a stiff, erect, you know, skeletal system. Now you're getting the flesh and the muscles, you know, and all that, you know? In verse 8, or I'll read it again. So I prophesied as I was commanded. And as I prophesied, okay, as I was out there speaking on the highways and the byways, or as the men before me were speaking on the highways and the byways, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. The bones started coming together when you started doing the research on your own, and you started trying to figure this here thing out for yourself, you know? And you starting to get up and shake around and move, because at first those bones, they was dead. They wasn't doing it. They was just sitting down and in a pile of goddamn bones. They was a bag of damn bones just sitting there not doing nothing, right? But now as they coming together, they becoming lively bones. They starting to move around, shake a little bit. You know, they starting to do something. Being, like I gave, not the analogy, but the real life scenario, I was into some, straight folly at that point in time. You know, I was fresh out of high school, just doing some old bullshit. So I was that still ass, dry ass bag of bones that wasn't even moving, doing all that. Every day my biggest thing was trying to get some money and fuck the most bitches, go from this bitch to the next bitch, So I was a dead ass, dry bag of bones, not really moving. But as I slowly start weaning myself off of that and putting my nose into these books, that was one bone connecting to another bone, all right? Then it says, and when I beheld, verse 8, and when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and there was skin covered them above, and there was no breath in them. All right? So there was a point in time, where I was, doing my research and doing due diligence and finding all this stuff out. Yeah, I became a full body, but there was no breath in me at that point in time, I was, I was pretty much a body, a whole body, It says, verse 9, then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith Yahweh power, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe unto these slain that they may live. Okay? So I prophesied as I commanded, and the breath came unto them, and they lived and stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army. All right? And so that breath being blown was like, basically crossing the line, coming on the other side of the how we say, the other side of the camera, We go from, watching to the ones being actually out there preaching, When the Most High put his breath upon us, what do? We started speaking with that breath, When he says eat the roll, and it's going to be in your belly, But nevertheless, that breath came upon us, and now look at us now, We the ones out there feeding you now, waking up other dry bones, It says, then he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say our bones are dried and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Okay? It says, therefore prophesy and say unto them, thus saith Yahweh power, behold, O my people, I will open up your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. And you shall know that I am Yahweh when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. Okay? And that's what we're in the midst of right now of witnessing, Like, it's amazing to me to look back on my life, when I thought, back in those days, I thought I was living doing something, As I look back now, like, damn, I was dead as fuck, Now, we somewhat living as far as, having this breath in us, We have these things in us, We're not necessarily living as far as the so-called nicer things in the world, We'll get that in the kingdom. But as far as knowing who we are, getting back to our power, we basically good now, We just the first steps, So, bringing that out was to bring out the point of, the valley of dry bones and who these so-called dead people are that we're going to get into, all right? And like we said, that, they're going to remain in the congregation of the dead, all right? This ain't necessarily talking about, a person that's deceased, you didn't, went and got your head blown off, that type of deal, it's not necessarily talking about that, all right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 8. It says, well, I'll read from 7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Okay? So their dead bodies shall lay in the street of the great city, which we know of as Babylon or America, all right? Which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, all right? So their dead bodies laying in the street of America, translating it all out, And then so again, this ain't necessarily talking about a bunch of fucking dead bodies just laying around in the streets, And actually there was a time where it was like that, when we first came over here, And they started doing us like that. But at that point in time, this wasn't spiritually known as Sodom and Egypt. It wasn't spiritually known as Sodom at that point in time, all right? it just recently under Barack Obama got the name spiritually Sodom, you know, when they started pushing it heavy on the heavier ways at that point in time, all right? So, you know, but this is fast forwarding into this time, you know, especially when the Great Awakening started happening, you know, after the apostles started going on YouTube with the videos, you know, you start seeing all these damn dead bodies. At this point in time, you start seeing Jake really starting to look for some kind of truth at this point in time. You know, you start to see a mass migration to the House of Conscious, all these other little shits, you know. At this point in time, you know, after these years, you see Jake start waking up to a whole lot of shit, you know. We want to be, you know, after 9/11, you start seeing the truthers come out, conspiracy theorists, people who believe in all kind of different shit, flat earth, all these types of things. You see all these people, you know what I'm saying, waking up to all these so-called different doctrines, you know. And this is basically, you know, a big festering, you know, especially with Jake, you know. As long as you're not on this here, the truth of the scriptures, you know, you basically dead, or you sipping on, like basically Babylon juice, some other bullshit, some other, you know, wine or some other fornication, you know. So right now, if you look at all these other Jakes that's here in America, you know, if they're not in this truth, they under some other kind of doctrine or some other kind of folly, you know. Basically, they still in they dead ways, you know. Oh, we trying to get the money, you know. We trying to build up and make some money here to be balling, you know. Well, then your ass is dead because you trying to make money into a system that's about to collapse. This currency's finna collapse. This place is about to be nuked. Everything here gonna be dissolved. All the elements here gonna be dissolved, you know. But if your ass is thinking that way, you obviously dead, you know. It's like you want to go in there and rearrange a fucking burning down house, you know. That don't make no sense. Only a so-called dead person would do that, you know. Or, you know, you want to sit over here and become a house conscious and believe in Ra and all that stuff. Like, man, these motherfuckers been dead and gone for, like, you know, Egypt was at the beginning of, like, civilization. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all going back on that. Like, when did he ever make his return? When did anything ever pop off with that, you know? You got a nigga with a shaved off head and a big ass ponytail, and that's who y'all trying to follow. This nigga is lost as hell, and that's who you trying to follow? You know, you still in the congregation of the dead if that's what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Or you want to follow after Esau, the so-called white man, and these Edomites and join his secret societies and shit like that and sell out? Well, you in the congregation of the dead because you don't see that you got to be fucking goats and fucking little babies drinking blood and shit like that to be down for a little bit of money. Then he gonna just Bill Cosby your ass and take it all away anyway when you try to do what you want to do with it. Like buy a goddamn, I believe it was either NBC or ABC that he was trying to buy. That's the whole reason behind the shit that he's doing, you know? The whole reason they trying to taint his character and all that. You know, they got to discredit him so bad that you wouldn't want to fuck with him no more, so he don't hold no weight. Bill Cosby made a lot of money, and Bill Cosby was so-called pro-black, where he could have used his power for good for our people, you know? Not to say that Carlos is pushing, like, black power and stuff like that, but who knows? If he would have bought a network, you know what I'm saying, it could have been used to give us a little airway on top of on TV, you know? But the Most High got his way of working every damn thing out, you know? We got the YouTube for this, you know, and we almost at the end of it anyway with the family of the word, you know? But nevertheless, you know, you see how Esau does it. You know, you want to put your trust in Esau, like the celebrities and shit, the Bill Cosbys and stuff like that, get real rich off of them, and then Esau turn around and take all your shit back from you and discredit you, you know? Especially when you try to make a big move, like I said, homeboy trying to buy him like a TV network. That's what they did to him, you know? Michael Jackson tried to, well, he didn't try. He damn near wound up fucking around owning half of Sony. Not just the Sony music record label, half of the Sony company, all right? This motherfucker was super rich, but the so-called white man was not going to let Jake own half of nothing, especially that big, you know? This man was making money off of all kind of different record labels and things like that, you know, but, you know, nevertheless, you know, people like Michael Jackson, or not even Michael Jackson, these young Jakes, you know, like I got a little cousin right now who I done try to break this shit down to him day in, day out. Like, yo, listen, the only way to get into that is get on that casting couch, all right? You either going to have to get plowed, you're going to be plowing another man, somebody going to be sucking you off, you're going to be sucking somebody else off. This is talking about another man on man, you know, or you're going to be doing some folly with some animals and shit like that, some bestiality type of shit, you know? But then you want to sit there and laugh and scoff and snicker, oh, that ain't like that. We just trying to get the money. I'm like, all right, motherfucker, keep doing that. Keep putting your trust in this little bastard, you know, and see what happens, you know. You're going to be depressed like all these other celebrities walking around, you know. But they in the congregation of the dead, you know. And really some of those celebrities are more alive than you fucking two-third ass Jake, you know. Because they depressed. They realize what the hell they did. So they somewhat see what's going on, you know. But the rest of you, you know, you want to be blinded, all right. This is back where we'll read that last actually, because that's where we started. We're gonna jump into Book of Romans, chapter 11. This is Romans 11:7. All right. What then? Hath Israel not obtained what he seeketh for? But the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. All right. So it's talking about the rest being blinded. All right. Now Israel. Okay. When we talk about Israel, talking about is the elect has attained it. All right. The election. It says it right there. For the election has attained it, because we the valley of dry bones, the ones that woke up and had the bones and the skin and everything put back on us. That's the elect. All right. But the rest of them, all right, we're going to read that now. We're going to close out with that. But the rest of them is not going to obtain that. They're not going to obtain that salvation because of the fact of they want to remain in the congregation of the dead. Actually, I'll grab one more precept. It says, the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. Yeah, because of the fact of the rest was blinded because they didn't want to come. I'll let the scripture break it down. We're going to close with this one. John 3. And everybody like this, John 3:16. But if they would get the whole understanding, they'd be all right. But this is John 3:19. It says, or 3:18. He that believeth on him is not condemned. All right. The election has obtained it, but the rest were blinded because they believed on these words. They had faith in the Most High, had faith in Yahushua and all the words of these scriptures. All right. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he have not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of Yahweh. And this is condemnation, that light is coming to the world. All right? We try to tell your ass, we try to wake your ass up and tell you the truth and tell you the right way to do these certain things. Come back to the law, statutes, commandments. Go back to your God. Stop serving these other false-ass gods and this damn devil. All right? This is condemnation, that light is coming to the world. And men love darkness rather than the light, because their deeds were evil. Okay? So that's the congregation of the dead. The man that wandereth out of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. You don't want to come to this truth. You don't want to come to the light, because why? It says the men love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. All right. So like the story I was telling you about my little cousin who want to still be a fucking rapper after I'm telling him, listen, man, you got to get into some some homosexual shit or some bestiality type of shit or sacrifice somebody type of shit to get into all that shit, But yeah, you still want to be going into all that stuff. Like, all right, well, it's the condemnation. I try to tell your ass, see, you want all that money because you don't really understand, but you're in a so-called hellish state. You want to feel like you something. You always been treated like you ain't shit, But really, you want to have that feeling. You can really be something if you a man of the Lord. You'll be, hey, man, you're going to be exalted above all except for above Yahweh and Yahushua and King David, And if you're not a part of the 144,000, you'll be, a little bit beneath that, But nevertheless, you're going to be, more or less glorified, at least by these other nations. Even if you're the smallest in Israel, you're going to be glorified by these other nations in a real short time. You don't got to wait, until 3 or 4 different generations down the line for you to be able to see some of these things, All this is coming to pass right here, right now, And the prophecies is happening right here in front of you, but yet you still want to sit there and trust on Esau, right? You still want to go get a goddamn record deal and go, well, shit, if I got to go get fucked in the ass by some goddamn old-ass white man, then get $1 million, then fuck it, I will. Yeah, but they're going to build, first of all, that's some gay shit. You're going to go do sell your soul or your own morals and what you know is right and wrong for some bullshit-ass money that's about to collapse anyway. And not only that, they can Bill Cosby your ass and take all your shit all your shit from you, and then air the tape of you doing the bestiality shit and make nobody want to, or discredit all the things you got to say. That's what you doing, fucking with the damn devil, but you don't want to listen. All right? It says, and this is the condemnation. The light is coming to the world. Yeah, I told you, don't trust this goddamn devil, man. He gonna plow you in your rectum, make you fuck a goat, videotape the shit, make you fuck some little babies and shit, videotape the shit, give you a bunch of money, and then when you don't wear the dress and shit that he wants you to wear, he gonna expose your ass, play the tape, and take all your money from you. But you really want to be on top and be rich because you ain't really shit, and your self-esteem is hurt. But how is your self-esteem going to feel when the videotape of you fucking a goat and eating a little baby and type of shit and having people shit on you, you know what I'm saying? When that shit surface, how are you going to really feel then? And now you broke and can't make no money. You see what I'm saying? It says, this is the condemnation, that light is coming to the world, and men love darkness rather than the light because their deeds were evil. For everyone that doth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest their deeds should be reproved. Yeah, they hate the light. Why? because they just want to remain in the congregation of the dead, you know. They don't want that evil to be exposed, you know. With that, we're going to go ahead and close out. Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught me this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you. I can push this truth and sincerity in the four corners of the earth. Stay strong. Shalom.